And on my desk in the teacher's room is the JET guidebook, open to that section about blogging with the
That's cold. Wait, no, don't wait. they didn't even tell him to his face, bro. They're just like, there's the guidebook. There's a section. Fucking read. Can you read? Read. Because look at that. You broke the fucking rules, bitch. All right. Hello, guys. My name is Shinky Pyre. The name rhymes with fire. And today, we are going to be watching Why Japan Will Disappoint You in part 1, not part 2, of the Japan Trap series by Dogen. And yes, we watched part 2 first the other day. The video is on the channel if you want to go watch that. It's a bit longer. I mean, it might be the same length. I don't know. I've been recording it, but it is a bit longer than this video. This one's 12 minutes. You cannot see it because it's behind me. But regardless, we watched that. It was a great video. And I thought, since, we watched part 2 and all, we should watch part 1. And there might be a part 3. I do not know. I might look into that because we want to see all the parts of the Japan Trap because I'm interested. Because I might fall prey to the Japan Trap itself. So if you do enjoy this video and you do find the reactions fun and you like Japan, you like anime, you like VTubers, and you like Nintendo game, you like a lot of things, right? Maybe like the video, maybe follow me here, subscribe, and possibly go to my Twitch, where you watch me play Pokemon games, Nintendo games, Mario Kart, Switch 2 games, fun times. But with that being said, let's watch the video, huh?
Around 10 years ago, I borrowed a friend's car to drive some family around countryside Japan. But the car clearly had some kind of problem. Despite being an automatic, it just wouldn't stop revving. So shortly after picking up the car, I turn around and go back to my friend's place. And when I tell him what's going on, he just bursts out laughing. He says, "Right, because it's not an automatic. It's an automatic manual mixed transmission. And you see this? You've got it set to the manual mode. It's been revving like crazy because it's been in first gear this whole time." Up until that point, I had only ever driven normal automatic cars.
No, I'm with you, pal. Manual? Fuck that shit, brother. Fuck that shit, brother.
But it just had a different kind of transmission, a completely viable one that I wasn't familiar with. And I can't even count the number of times that this kind of thing has happened to me as a foreigner living and working in Japan. The instances where an interaction left me completely confused or sad or frustrated, only for me to realize, often years later, that I had a fundamental misunderstanding of what was going on at the time. And every time this happens, I think to myself, if only I had known. If I had known, I wouldn't have felt like that.
That's
I
with
definitely
everything.
wouldn't have said that. I might still be working at that company. To be clear, not every negative experience foreigners have in Japan can be attributed to cultural misunderstandings. Not by a long shot.
Not everything.
But there are many instances in which cultural misunderstandings cause frustration, and further instances in which this very frustration triggers a vicious cycle, a sort of negative feedback loop that can turn even the most bright-eyed, Japan-loving otaku bitter. I call this cycle the Japan Trap. And today, and in some future videos, I'd like to use some personal anecdotes to explore its unique mechanisms. I want to look at the specific circumstances that constitute the Japan.
By the way, I forgot to say this in the intro. The video is in the description. I just got to say that right now. If you don't want me pausing to talk about my experience with Japan and just what I think, my thoughts, then you can go watch the original without any pauses, anything. Watch the Dogen greatness without me sitting on your left side of your screen. You can do that. Links are in the description. Continue.
Trap so that fewer people end up getting caught in it. And I'd like to start this mini-series with this, the Japanese concept of reading the air, or kukyo. So we've all heard this phrase, which is again often translated as read the air, or read the room, read between the lines, or take a hint. But I'm kind of torn on these translations. That's crazy. Because while kukyo yomu can certainly be translated to, again, something like read the room, or take a hint, or read between the lines, I don't think that these translations effectively communicate exactly why it's so important to do this in Japan. I almost feel like a better translation might be solve the conflict before it happens. And here's why. During my time teaching English on the JET program, I had a website where I posted my creative writing. Most of the things that I wrote were short satirical pieces based on experiences I had as an American living in countryside Japan. For example, I wrote a 3-page script about the horror of Japanese supermarkets. That's actually where the script for this video comes from. Many of the initial videos that I posted on this channel were actually based on scripts I had written years earlier during my time on Jet. Now there was a section in the Jet guidebook or the Jet rulebook that said something along the lines of, if you have a website or a blog, don't post anything about your school or students. Japan takes privacy very seriously.
They do,
I remember reading this at the beginning of my 3-year Jet program contract. But something happened during those 3 years. You see, when I got my offer to teach on the Jet program, it said, should you choose to accept this offer, you will be teaching at these middle schools. And I thought, perfect, because I'm not terribly good with younger kids.
You're with the middle school crowd.
Teaching English at middle schools in rural Japan. However, at the beginning of my 3rd year on Jet, English became a mandatory subject at elementary schools as well. And when this happened, I was told, starting next week, you will be spending half of your time at these elementary schools teaching all grades. And this was stressful, not just for me, but for everyone. The other teachers at these Japanese elementary schools were almost as blindsided by this policy as
I'm waiting for like
there
the
wasn't
big
a proper
drop.
curriculum in place. And the students, of course, were less than thrilled to have some of their more enjoyable subjects or free time cut down to make room for English. And some students picked up on this chaos and
like when
did
I had
what
to
kids
learn
often
French
do
for grade
in
8.
chaotic situations, which is try and test or maybe even expand their boundaries. Sometimes
French,
students
brother.
would try and pants the new foreign teacher. Sometimes they would yell out in the middle of class about how bad the Japanese teacher's English pronunciation was. Once a student farted into their hands, called me over as if to ask a question.
I'm gonna finish.
And released it into my face. Again.
See this face right here? Like I said earlier, middle schoolers, bro. Nah, a man's actually shat in his hand. It's like, hey, take a whiff, brother. Take a whiff. Like, come, yo, that's insane. That's insane. But I can definitely imagine middle schoolers doing that type of shit, brother. Like, it's actually insane. It's actually insane. That's the stuff you gotta deal with. And I mean, I am, like I said before, like with French and learning English, like I wouldn't want another subject shoved into my curriculum or whatever, how the fuck you say the word. Like I wouldn't want that to be there. And when I have to do it, I wouldn't really want to because it's not that important. And I guess that the Japanese, English is like their French because I'm Canadian and I had to learn French in grade 8. And I immediately dropped it after the 1 mandatory year.
Again, it was just chaos. So I wrote about it. I wrote a completely fictional piece in which I walked down the hallway of a made-up Japanese school with my made-up Japanese teaching partner and opened the door to the classroom. But what I see inside isn't the inside of a classroom, but the scene from an African safari. The rhinos are fighting. The monkeys are throwing things. The crocodiles are getting ready to bite.
Excuse me?
I can't remember ever telling any of my Japanese coworkers that I had this website. I remember telling some of them that I liked to write and that I had a website, but I can't remember giving any of them the actual URL. I definitely did share the URL during my JET program interview back in the States though, as I used the website to showcase my Japanese progress, my love for Japan, and this small community I had fostered over the years. But again, I can't remember sharing the URL with my coworkers at these schools. Though to be clear, I may have. I may have done it and just forgotten about it as time passed and different teachers came and left, because it's very common in Japan for teachers to leave after only 1 or 2 years out of school. But I was in the wrong. I told myself that I was writing into the void, writing for a handful of friends back in the States and a few Japanese friends who were in Kansai and Tokyo, but it was a public website. If I wanted to write anything related to Japanese schools, I should have waited until my contract was up. Here's where we get to reading between the lines. I published the piece Sunday night, go to sleep, then wake up the next morning and go into work. This day at one of my middle schools. And on my desk in the teacher's room is the JET guidebook, open to that section about blogging with the...
Nah, that's cold. Wait, nah, no way. They didn't even tell him to his face, bro. They're just like, there's the guidebook. There's a section. Fucking read. Fucking read. Can you read? Read. Because look at that. You broke the fucking rules, bitch. You broke the fucking rules. You're going to pay the fucking price.
Aforementioned section highlighted. And when I see this, I immediately look up and around the teacher's room, expecting someone to come over and say, Dogen, we need to talk about that thing you published last night.
You're fired.
Okay. But it never happened. The Japanese English teachers that I worked with at that school
very passive.
Never mentioned it, nor did the vice principal, nor the principal. Every interaction I had with every teacher that day was completely normal. It also didn't come up at the after-school meeting or any of my regular visits to the Board of Education.
Where's my bag at, by the way?
To this day, I don't know who saw the website, who put the book on my desk, and which teachers from which schools knew about the piece. Had someone been reading my website this whole time? Did the Japanese consulate...
They were stalking you, bro. They were stalking your ass on your website. And we're going to turn this down. Like, they were, though. Like, they were. They knew this whole time, waiting for you to slip up. And then when they did, they were ready for the coldest play of the year. And they put that yearbook down. They were like, yes, finally, you slipped up. And now I can watch you fall. But not say anything about it because it's funny and I win, bitch. It's not like that, but like, I like to imagine it was some elaborate scheme because it makes it really funny. Okay, continue, Dogen.
Seattle passed down the URL to the local Board of Education? Or did one of the teachers at these schools know the URL because I had told them in passing 2 years earlier and simply forgotten about it? Again, I don't know because nobody ever confronted me about this. Nobody ever brought it up in any capacity. What I want to talk about, though, is not this roundabout method in which I was reprimanded, but my psychological reaction to it. How my misread of this situation created a broken transmission moment. You see, when this happened to me, I thought I understood Japanese culture. I had learned about it from my university professors, my textbooks, anime, manga, and movies. I had a degree in Japanese. I had learned the phrase "kuki o yomu," and that Japanese people are very non-confrontational years before all of this. And I was taught it again during the JET training seminars. What I never learned, however, was the why. Why it's so important in Japan to read between the lines. Why Japanese people are so non-confrontational. I had the knowledge, but it wasn't anchored in anything. And because of that, when I was suddenly on the receiving end of that passive aggressiveness, I had a very adverse reaction to it. My American mind immediately went to, well, if there's a problem, then can't we just talk?
Yeah, say something to my face. If you got something, speak up. Speak the fuck up. Tell it to me. I want to know. But that's culturally different. You know, you got to read between the lines. You know something's wrong. You know something's wrong. Fix it. I don't have to tell you that. You know, you broke the rules. I put them there. You fix it. And then maybe next time there won't be just a warning. Like, they warned you, you know, indirectly. You don't know who did it. You don't know who did it. It could have been someone important. You could have been a coworker. It could be something, but like, you know, you did something wrong. And that's their way of telling you. They're not going to tell it to your face. And low key, I kind of like it that way. I gotta like, I see the vision with that. Because like, as a confrontational guy myself, I see the vision. I'm like, hey, you don't have to tell me to my face. I know I was saying earlier, tell me to my face, but like at the same time, I'm like, yo, I don't mind just like getting a hint, you know, just like say something's wrong. Or you can even give it to me something written, you know? Like you don't have to directly tell me, it's fine. I can take a hint. Sometimes, again, I'm very socially inept, so like I might not be able to take a hint, but sometimes I know. If it's obvious enough, I'll know. Okay. All right. But anyways, on a tangent.
Talk about it. Dogen. Because now I feel like I don't know who I can trust. I feel like you're all watching me, but pretending you're not. I don't even know how much trouble I'm in. This Japanese way of doing things,
well, that part's
beating
crazy.
Around the bush is weird and wrong. The engine is clearly broken. I didn't realize that this wasn't a bug in the system, that the transmission was working fine, that there are multiple logical reasons for why this approach is often the better solution in Japan specifically. When the 3/11 earthquake hit approximately 14 years ago, the whole world marveled at how calm and collected Japanese people affected by the disaster were. But it's not a coincidence that Japanese people reacted this way. Earthquakes, oftentimes catastrophic, are part of life in Japan, and the culture has evolved accordingly to prepare for them. Prioritize the needs of the group. Don't step out of line. Resolve the conflict before it happens. Do these things so that the next time a catastrophe inevitably strikes, we can get
Big
up
group
and running
mentality
faster
here.
and make better use of our remaining resources. Do these things because in Japan, there's never been a lot of room for error. I hadn't heard these arguments. I had only heard the current state of Japanese culture.
Yeah.
And I came from a very in-your-face culture. A culture that
America,
teaches its students to raise their
fuck
hands
yeah.
and speak their opinions and later cast their votes. And we can afford to take more risks in the US because of the tremendous amount of land and natural resources the country is blessed with. There are so many entrepreneurial endeavors in the US, not only because freedom is written into the country's founding documents, but because there is more room for error. You see, I moved from a culture that says, just do it. It's better to ask for forgiveness than permission, to one that says, don't risk it. The nail that sticks out gets hammered down.
I'm in the middle somewhere. Like I think both are great, you know? Sometimes you just gotta be one of the group, and sometimes you gotta not ask for permission. I do both. Low-key, I do actually. Sometimes I'll just do something, and then hopefully I didn't do bad. And then other times I'll ask, and I'll try to like fit in and like do what everyone else is doing, you know? Like it really, like, you gotta pick when to be a sheep. I think in the middle's best. I don't think it's ideal, but like going all the way both ways. But at the same time, you know, it's how it'll be. You know, maybe like, you know, the Canadian way is the middle. No, it's not. We're closer to the U.S. I'll always say that. It's controversial to say. I think we're very, very similar to the U.S. people. I'm just saying we're very close and very similar culturally. But I think there are some differences, and I think maybe if this isn't a personal quirk, I think we're somewhere in the middle of these two ideologies where we can be like, hey, sometimes we gotta just do something, and then hopefully we didn't do it bad. Maybe ask for forgiveness later. You know, maybe we ask for forgiveness. It's fine. But other times, you know, we gotta know what to do. We gotta know what to follow the rules. You gotta know when to follow the line. Don't stick out. You gotta know when to just be, to keep your head down. You know, you gotta know. You never know. Like, truly. But whatever feels right, you know.
And both cultures, both transmissions are optimized for their respective vehicles. Yeah. But when it came to disagreements, contentious situations, when the rubber was finally meeting the road, I'd only ever driven with an American transmission. So I couldn't understand that whoever put that book on my desk was probably trying to give me an out. They probably thought, by not reprimanding Dogen face to face, he can save some face. If I put this book here, Dogen will understand what we're asking. Yeah. He'll read the air and take that piece down. And we can proceed peacefully, as if this never happened. We can avoid conflict. If anything,
low-key,
Dogen
I agree.
will appreciate this. And this is the takeaway point of this video.
I would. I gotta be so for real. I would.
If you start living here and working here, making friends here and dating here, you'll inevitably run into similar circumstances. Situations where you find yourself asking, why didn't you just tell me? How could I have known that? Situations in which the proposed solution is so risk-adverse, or the method of communication is so roundabout that you worry it could cause the opposite effect. And in some cases, it might. But what I'd like everyone, myself included, to try and remember is that it's not arbitrary. That behind every "why Japanese people" custom, behind the customs of every culture are hundreds of years of trial and error. That there's a method to the madness. Because in many cases, just the knowledge that there is a reason, well, that in and of itself can make the difference between, right, maybe I should zoom out and think about this from a different angle. And this is so obviously weird and backwards. Japanese society has faults, and many people, both foreign and Japanese, leave because of them. But sometimes people leave, rather tragically, because of one too many cultural misunderstandings, because of one too many broken transmission moments during those formative first years here. I hope to prevent this from happening. I hope that some people can learn from my past mistakes, such that when they're in Japan and that engine starts revving, rather than assuming the worst and pulling a U-turn, they can shift up a gear and keep moving forward.
Just gotta keep moving forward. But all right, though, you know, that was something, huh? This video was not as like crazy as the other one. I didn't have much to say. I understand what he's putting down. You know, like read the room, read the air, read, bitch. But like honestly, yeah, I would honestly appreciate the whole book thing. Like again, they put down the fucking chapter, the fucking reference of like the rules, right, is right there. I would see it on my desk. I'd be like, oh shit, I fucked up. I fucked up. Okay. I'm gonna fix this. Because like again, if you like, I don't need to be told directly, and honestly, I'm okay with that. I like not being told directly. I think indirectly is better for me personally. Because then there's less. I mean, there's still pressure, but like less of it. You know what I mean? Because like I know what I gotta fix without feeling that bad about it. You know. I mean, I'm not gonna feel like great, obviously. Like seeing that, I'm like, oh shit, I forgot, or I didn't forget, but like they found out. All right, I'll fix my shit. I broke the rules. Damn. All right. But like, yeah, it's all about Kokyo Yomu, like that fucking phrase, read the air. That is a whole like social thing that like I will have to learn, even as like for Western society. I feel like it's good to learn either way. Just read the air. Read like people are putting down subtly, which is something I'm gonna struggle with because I'm socially inept. I said that as a joke, but like it's kind of true. But but yeah, check out Dogen. We're gonna like the video. 100% like the video. We gotta like that shit. Go watch it if you don't want me hear me yapping. Although I didn't do too much yapping today, but there was like like that, like like you heard a lot of those, and like, oh, I understand. So like if you don't want to hear those, you want to watch the video naturally on its own without my fucking voice in the way, go watch this video. But if you enjoyed my reaction to this and my insight and my jokes, I couldn't say too much, but it was crazy that kid farted in his face. Basically, he secondhand farted in his face is insane. But like again, I like this content. I like watching him talk about Japan. It's decent, and it's also one of the Dogen videos I can watch without having to read, and I enjoy that. Yeah. So we're gonna watch this third episode soon enough, but I'm enjoying this, and I'm gonna keep reacting because reacting is fun. And if you enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, all that fancy stuff. And if you enjoy Nintendo, Pokemon, and any games at all, VTubers, etc., go follow my Twitch, subscribe to the channel, and maybe stick around for more yapping and reacting and gaming and Mario Kart. Stick around. Yeah. Okay. Bye, guys. Thanks for watching.